welcome you all. It's really a thrill to be in Kingston. We're in Kingston, right? Yes. We've been on the road for 3 weeks. I forget where I am. And I want to thank you for arranging for this lovely weather also. I want to welcome the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council. It's great to see you. For the record, this is the region that I live in, so I'm doubly excited. Let me introduce you to the SIAT members who are with me today. I have, to my left, Roberta Reardon, Commissioner of Department of Labor. To my right, Ruth Ann Wisnowskis from the Commissioner of the Homes and Community Renewal. We have two Assembly women we're excited to have with us today, Donna Lopardo of District 123 and Assemblywoman Helene Weinstein of District 41. So we have an all-female team this morning that deserves an applause. And I want to also recognize the Assembly is very present today. We have Shelley Mayer, Assembly member from this region with us this morning. And we also have Steve Noble, who is the mayor of the city of Kingston, who we're happy to, because, you know, Kingston is the DRI, and so we're very excited about that as well. And Assembly member Kevin Cahill. Thank you for being here. So as you know, you have 30 minutes to make your presentation, and then we'll do about 30 minutes of very difficult and grueling questions. And then we'll go on a tour of this fabulous region. So thank you all for being here. I know the weather was a little tough this morning, but it's beautiful here, so you're on.
Well, thank you, Madam Secretary. Welcome to the members of your team and our elected officials who are with us today. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to introduce the members here that are with us at the head table. First of all, on my right, Marcia Gordon, who's the President and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. Megan Taylor, our Executive Director, and her team has provided great leadership for our council. Jonathan Drapkin, President and CEO, Hudson Valley Patterns for Progress, regional planning and policy organization, which really covers the counties that are in our region. Jim Taylor, President of Taylor Biomass, the leading company in our region, and again, Steve Noble, the mayor, who's we're pleased is joining us for our presentation today. So we're excited to have you here to tell you about the work that our council has been doing. These, of course, are a group of volunteers who have fully bought into the governor's approach to bottom-up economic development, and we're convinced in our region that it is truly paying off for the citizens that many of you represent. So let me begin by just walking through for you the topics that we're going to cover today. I'm going to do some of these, and then I'm going to turn other parts over to the members of our team. First of all, we're going to talk about our process, how we go about choosing the projects that we're recommending to you. We're going to look at our performance. We believe from day one, when we accepted the assignments on this group, that outcomes was the most important thing that we'd be responsible for producing, and we believe we've done a good job with that. We'll talk about the Mid-Hudson implementation agenda. We'll tell you about our vision and strategy, our past projects, what we're doing for workforce development, our regional cluster program, and our opportunity agenda. We will talk about our downtown revitalization project, and we'll introduce to you very quickly our proposed priority projects for the coming year. So first of all, our progress. The Mid-Hudson is a very unique region, and from day one, we were committed to a fair and transparent process. We emphasize extensive engagement with the public in terms of developing our plan and recommending projects to you. We have a comprehensive application review, and we do very thorough interviews where we try to vet very carefully the various projects we recommend to you. And we believe that the results are the best indicator of our success. We've generated more applications than virtually any other region, and we think by many of the indicators that the regions are judged, we have some of the very best performance. On the right-hand side of this slide, you of course see the counties that we represent. And our region is a very complex and diverse region. We have some of the wealthiest communities you'd find in New York State, but we also have 11 distressed opportunity communities that are in need of help. We have some of the most important high technology companies in the country like IBM and Regeneron, but we also are a region that has a very strong agricultural footprint and emphasize things such as farm to table. We believe we have some of the nation's most important history in our region. The country's first presidential library, of course, FDR's library in Hyde Park, West Point, Washington's headquarters during the Revolutionary War, and of course, the state's first capital right here in Kingston. And we have some unique natural resources that we try to build around. Of course, the Hudson River, one of the great rivers of the world, the Mohonk Lake, the Long Island Sound, and this beautiful Kingston Roundout that we're fortunate enough to be here today. So in studying the assets of our region, we try to use those assets as the basis to build our strategic plan and the, again, projects that we recommend to you. So the next thing we'd like to tell you a little bit about is past performance. Again, we believe that when we look at the success that we've had in this area, we compare favorably to virtually any of the other regions in the state. 90% of all the projects that we have recommended for CFA funding are complete or progressing. That's over 574 projects in total, almost $1.6 billion in economic activity, and with a very good 6-to-1 economic leverage. In other words, the amount of money that the state invests in these projects versus the private dollars that are also go to funding these various projects. So we feel that in this regard, again, our numbers are about as good as we can find in the state. And again, emphasizing outcomes, we take a very close look at these various performance indicators, among others that we watch. And virtually all the performance indicators that we identified when we began this process have improved, in fact, have improved dramatically. But because of the very good success, particularly in the New York City area, we still lag behind some of the success that has been enjoyed in other parts of the state, and that's, we believe, primarily because of the opportunity communities in our region. We'll be addressing those opportunity communities throughout our presentation. The Mid-Hudson implementation agenda is the next thing I'd like to tell you about. We have three main strategies that we employ for our region. The first is a live strategy, and this initiative seeks to revitalize the region's many hilltop and river towns, the urban centers, and we also do this by encouraging smart growth in the region, particularly because, again, the wonderful environmental resources that we have. Our work strategy tries to build around the businesses that we think have succeeded in this area and those that have the potential to succeed in this area. And there are emerging clusters and things such as biotechnology, advanced and high-tech manufacturing, information technology, financial and professional services, and distribution are just some of the areas that we have had and continue to have very good success. And the third area that we emphasize is what we call the play strategy, and this is an effort to try to position the region as a premier tourist location based on its scenic beauty, its agriculture, its history, its arts, the recreational assets, in addition to our close proximity to New York City, which we believe is a very strong asset. And of course, this play strategy not only has advantages in bringing tourists into our area, but when you have many of the assets that fall under this category, it also makes it a better place to live. So we believe there's great synergies between these three strategies that we have been emphasizing. And we put these three strategies, and again, the outer circle are the themes that we've been asked to emphasize but by the state this year, placemaking, workforce development, innovation, and tradable sectors. Those have been areas of emphasis that fit very nice with our strategy, and we'll be telling you more about each of these throughout the presentation. So past project update, and we divided these into the three sectors. First of all, the LIVE initiative, we believe we've made great progress in this particular area, building upon some of the assets that we have in this area. An international airport, great rail service, major highway infrastructure. We're at the crossroads of both east-west and north-south, major transportation corridors, and 4 county-owned airports. So we built off all these, and of course our very talented population of over 2.3 million people. To give you an example of some of the things that we've emphasized in this LIVE strategy, this is a project that we funded in 2016 that's been dramatically improving this corridor in Orange County. And again, because of our work there, we're seeing other very successful initiatives that have come about because of our investments in these areas. And we've seen major projects like this one down in Yonkers that was awarded in 2015, a community that we feel that our investments in many ways has helped transform through the years. And of course, the biggest project and the most successful, I know many of us were there when the bridge was opened last month. Of course, we've provided support from the beginning for this very important Mario Cuomo Bridge, and many members of our council were leaders in supporting the governor in this initiative from the very beginning of this particular project. In the work category, again, we believe we have made tremendous progress. Our workforce is growing dramatically. Our unemployment rate has dropped significantly. Most of the growth has come in the private sector, and it's come about in a variety of different areas. And one of the things I'm proud to point out, again, as a result of our high technology sector, that we had in between 2011 and 2015, over 11,000 patents granted, which was more than any other region in the state. And I think if you ask people, what part of New York produces the most patents, many of them would, think of perhaps Rochester or New York City or Long Island. But it actually happens right here in the Mid-Hudson Valley because of companies like IBM and Regeneron and some of the work that our universities are doing. So this is a great area to grow companies that are here and to convince companies to locate here. A couple strategies that we've employed that have already become very successful. The new Toro College of Medicine in Orange County is up and running. Again, helped a little bit with a leadership CFA award that was given there. 3D printing initiative at SUNY New Paltz. Again, something that is stimulating economic development and business growth through the good work there that's done at the university. And then our place strategy, again, to think that there's over $4 billion spent on tourist-related activity in our region really shows, again, the unique nature of this area, and something that we have very successfully built upon and dramatically increased the number of visitors coming here and the number of dollars spent in this region and the number of jobs created. Of course, I'm sure many of you were at the announcement just this past week about Legoland locating in the state of New York. Again, that was a project that we were behind very early and supported in 2014, 15, and 16, something that we believe will enhance our strategy of play, again, bring tourists to the area and create jobs in certainly the Orange County region of New York. Something else, though, that we've emphasized, of course, is the great agriculture in this area and our opportunities to help farmers and others with the food supply chain. So we supported projects like the Helpworth Farms, Hudson Valley Hub, which helps many farmers in our region. And when we turn to our past priority project list, again, in addition to the standard CFAs, our priority projects have again shown great results. 87% of the 89 priority projects are completed or progressing. And we have, again, a very high rate of 11 to 1 leverage ratio, which shows which we are recommending to the state to invest dollars in projects that dramatically pay off. So now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Marcia to talk about workforce development, something we believe very strongly in. And I'd say from day one, when the members of this council set out to take on the charge that the governor has given us, we've emphasized in trying to help everyone in our region and all different types of business. And Marcia's going to tell you a little bit about our success in those areas.
Very good. Thank you, Dennis. So we know that we're here because it's all about jobs, and it's all about creating jobs for everyone in our workforce. And as Dennis said, here in the Mid-Hudson, we've concentrated our workforce development efforts and initiative on all 3 levels of employment: high tech and high wage jobs, jobs in the life sciences and information technology, mid-level jobs, jobs in advanced manufacturing, and especially in entry-level and hard-to-place jobs. And we're especially proud of Greyston Bakery and the work that they've done in Yonkers and Westchester County. Let me just switch this here. We're to focus for a moment on the high-tech and high-wage jobs. From the very beginning, one of the projects that we supported was a New York State cloud computing and analytics center based at Marist College, where Marist College and IBM jointly trained 1,925 individuals and corporate teams to address critical skills shortages in the area of large-scale computing. Subjects included running Linux on major big equipment, as I spoke to Dennis before, business analytics, software-defined networking, and cybersecurity. And then, of course, we have created and supported a wonderful incubator at New York Medical College. And this biotech incubator at New York Medical College offers shared resources, turnkey wet lab space, sponsored professional services to promising high-potential entrepreneurs and startup. And so here you have the best-in-class infrastructure and operational services and working together in a framework which is, by the way, filled since we've funded it, with members defining their business strategies, conserving capital, building strong teams, and and achieving development and funding milestones. Then, of course, for the mid-level workforce development, we're very proud of the New York Manufacturing Alliance Apprentice Program, which is an employer-led public-private pilot program for registered apprentices in manufacturing occupations. The apprenticeship has 2 basic elements, OJT, or on-the-job training, as well as related instruction. Go Make It is a manufacturing careers platform designed to help students, parents, and teachers explore the world of advanced manufacturing and help them find information needed to pursue careers in this exciting industry. And then the Hudson Valley Educational Consortium, which is a collaborative effort among the 6 community colleges in the region to create broader access to academic programs and workforce training throughout the region. And this has been a collaboration between SUNY Dutchess, SUNY Orange, SUNY Rockland, SUNY Sullivan, SUNY Ulster, and SUNY Westchester. And also that consortium has also conducted a study to provide gaps analysis highlighting workforce trends. The study then compared the trends with the offering of the members within that group and other training organizations. I know healthcare was certainly one industry that was highlighted. And then, of course, the workforce development for the entry level and the hard to place. And there's so much that's happening across the sector in both public organizations, not-for-profit and private organizations. But we're especially proud of the Center for Open Hiring at Greyston Bakery, which is really a national and soon-to-be international example of facilitating the widespread adoption of open hiring and supporting innovation in the delivery of community programs for employees and neighbors. This has the potential to change the world, one job, one person, one company, and one community at a time. 175 individuals are employed through open hiring in 2016. And of course, the fun thing about Greyston is that they make all of the goodies inside Ben & Jerry's ice cream. So all the brownie bites you eat are made in Yonkers at that bakery. And as part of the 2015, I think I'm off here. I'm good. We want to, as part of the 2015 Regional Economic Cluster Plan Initiative, the Mid-Hudson Regional Council chose the food and beverage manufacturing supply chain. Throughout the program, the Regional Technology Development Centers provide direct assistance to New York companies, including helping new and emerging businesses to move through new technological breakthroughs from the research lab to the marketplace, as well as providing education and training. The NISTAR Regional Economic Cluster Program, in our case, we chose, and again, this is just one of our clusters, but we chose to focus on the food and beverage manufacturing supply chain. It was a natural choice for the Mid-Hudson region, as it is a high growth area and average annual wages in the sector continue to climb. The designation continues to build upon tremendous past investment in this sector. Over the prior 6 rounds, there have been 37 priority projects funded in the food and beverage manufacturing supply chain sector. And you could see here some of the real concrete results of the investment in this sector. So with that, I will turn this over to Jonathan Drapkin to talk about the opportunity agenda. Thank you.
It's good? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Marcia. So I'm here to talk about 2 areas near and dear to me at Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress, but I do want to say with other members of the Regional Council sitting here, all of us bring our own special expertise to the council, and we don't just sit on the council, we all contribute to the council. So I want to say that on behalf of the other members of the council that are sitting here this morning. So let me start with the opportunity area communities. I won't read them for you, but what I will point out to you is that if you look at the map, there is at least one of the opportunity areas located in each of the 7 counties in our region. The council incorporated the twin goals 5 years ago, which included moving impoverished individuals throughout the region into jobs that can sustain them and their families, and revitalizing the distressed communities. But what we do is we provide community profiles, which we've been working very closely with the Department of State on, and we're about to update them thanks to grants from the state. There is an infrastructure review that we did for each of the opportunity areas. We conduct a mayor's roundtable for the Mid-Hudson through Pattern, and then for the Lower Hudson through PACE, who is not here today, but we split up the region and don't overlap. And then housing, we do community needs assessments for each of the communities, and Pattern has conducted 2 recent housing conferences in which we've emphasized gentrification and how do we put programs into place and laws into place to ensure that everybody can still live and yet we can revitalize those communities. The DRI, which has been a great program of the governor's, and really we've thrown ourselves into it completely as council. So last year's winner was Middletown, and there, I think you see pictures of the demolition of the former Woolworth building. And then a really neat project is 4 retail spaces that were connected as a building into a heritage trail. And it has been really a joy to work with Middletown in partnership with them, with the state of New York, with the Mayor DiStefano, and it's just a great first-time winner. But I'm going to reserve comment on that for round 2. I got to tell you, it's really fun to sit here and talk about why we chose the winner of round 2, Megan, which was Kingston, while sitting to my left is the mayor of Kingston. So, Mayor, feel free to correct me, join in, or as I try to give justice to why we selected Kingston. Major industries there are manufacturing, innovation technology, food and beverage, tourism, and film and television. But why did they win? All right, so this is where it gets a little embarrassing, and that is because just like in Middletown and in Kingston, one of the keys is strong city government, and in particular, its leadership. And Mayor DiStefano and the mayor of Kingston, who's sitting on my left, embody that. They really know how to take their city in a positive direction. We never had any doubt that Middletown was going to do well with the $10 million we awarded them. We have no doubt that Kingston will do the same thing. They have a AA bond rating. I didn't know if that was minus, but okay. 1.6 million surplus in 2016, 36 CFA projects, of which I think you'll see that 4 are new ones that will be part of our priority projects. And so they didn't know if they would win, so they submitted their CFAs and they won. They have just a collection of activity that is going to make us all proud. The DRI was focused on the Stockade Business District, and Stockade, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, goes all the way back to, early pioneer days when you surrounded, your little community with a stockade. So it's known as the Stockade Business District, but 540 parcels, 267 acres, at least 12 vacant residential buildings, 10 acres of developable land. There's an opportunity there for many things that can happen, not just in the district, but throughout the city. Contains National Historic District, and it's a walkable economic hub. Meg, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Finally, I'm going to move into our 2017 priority project recommendations. Each of the members has been given a booklet that's in your folders, and these go into a little more description of each of these projects than we have time for today. But I thought I'd give you a little summary of them and point out 1 or 2 in each area. First of all, our priority project recommendations, again, has very strong leverage, 14 to 1. It will create many jobs in the permanent job category. It'll help retain many jobs, because many of these projects are related to construction. It will also do many construction projects. As you can see, the projects are relatively even divided among our 3 strategies and are throughout the entire region that we represent. So to give you a couple of examples from each, in our LIVE strategy, there's 6 projects, total private investment of over $89 million, and very strong number of construction jobs created. A couple of examples. One is the Hyde Park downtown revitalization effort that will primarily center around infrastructure. As some of your council members have seen, we've had great success in our region in turning around cities. We think Beacon, which many of the members of the team visited, is one of the great successes. We believe Hyde Park has just huge potential to grow, to help create more jobs, to make it a much more livable community, but they do need infrastructure help. It has wonderful assets. You see a picture here of the FDR Presidential Library. It also has the Vanderbilt estate, the Culinary Institute of America. So by helping this town, we think it'll create jobs in virtually all three of our strategic areas. Another example is the Route 9 redevelopment project, which would not only help the municipal stadium, but road work and other infrastructure needs in and around that area, something again that we recommend very strongly. Another one is a further investment in Tuxedo Schlossberg, an area, a corridor that has undergone dramatic revitalization and which is spurring economic development all around that area. In the work category, and this is the one that I'm most excited about, we have a total of 9 projects. Most of these projects are very successfully family-owned businesses that have shown great potential to grow and to compete, believe it or not, on the international level. So I'll give you just a couple examples here. One is USAI expansion phase 2 that we're recommending. This is a leading international company located in Orange County that deals with advanced LED lighting and literally competes around the world. Another one is the Cambridge project, which sells security seals. May not sound glamorous, but a very successful business that's created a number of jobs and again competes globally. A third example is the Radiological Research Accelerated Facility, which would be down in Westchester, doing some very cutting-edge research and trying to address cures for various types of cancers, and a project that we are very excited about. In our play category, again, 4 projects, total private investment over $14 million. And here we have everything from a warehouse facility that will support fruit growers and distributors throughout the region. Again, getting these products to market is one of the challenges that we have, and we believe projects like this will not only help get our great Hudson River Valley agricultural projects throughout New York State, but also throughout the Northeast. Another one is New York Brewing Company in Orange County. Again, an example of taking local products and processing them and making them available not only in New York, but for many of these emerging companies, we hope, around the world. So in your book, they of course include all the projects, some of which are very large scale, but others are, again, family-owned businesses that have a proven success record that we believe can dramatically grow and collectively make a huge economic impact on job growth in our region. So to conclude, we're going to play a short video, and then we're going to turn to questions.
you so much. Great presentation, lovely video. I don't know, Roberta and I have done some traveling in the state. And you know you have when you recognize so many places. It really is a beautiful region. So we're going to start the questioning with Commissioner Reeder.
Thank you. It's on. So thank you very much. This was a really exciting presentation. Your video is beautiful. And yes, it's funny to begin to recognize the places and realize I've been to many of these places, so it's really nice. I, of course, Department of Labor, I'm really focused on workforce development, and you write about your work strategy, create and retain jobs in manufacturing. Can you describe some of the workforce development work group ideas in more detail? What are the plans to make sure that you have a qualified workforce here for this development?
I can answer that. Harold, if it's okay, I know you're involved with manufacturing, so if you have anything to add, please feel free. You know, I think the fact that we started really with working with the community colleges on the skills gap analysis was very key. And so I know that two sectors in particular that relate to our council, in addition to manufacturing, was certainly healthcare and hospitality. And there have been region-wide training programs set up, which have been funded through the big workforce development system. You of all people understand how that works. And really expanded to include high-tech manufacturing into a region-wide jobs waiting program, which has had great success in training particularly long-term unemployed people in the growing sectors of healthcare and now advanced manufacturing. We know also that the hospitality industry can often be an entry level, particularly for foreign-born people that are here and that need that career pathway. I heard the other day Peter Herrera, who owns New York Hospitality Group in Westchester County, and he's a first-generation family from Cuba, and how that has created such a career pathway, not only for himself, but for many of his employees. So, but it really focused on the strategic needs and creating those partnerships with our community colleges, with our not-for-profit organizations, with our business organizations, with our four-year colleges and universities, as you saw with Marist College and the cloud computing. And our graduate schools in terms of New York Medical College. So we have such a strong partnership between the academic and the business and the private and not-for-profit communities. It's one of the strongest. I've been a student myself of labor and workforce development, and I know it's one of the strongest in the country, actually.
We have two members on our council that represent organized labor, and so we also do work in trades with the organized labor groups. Harold King, who has introduced the Council of Industries, is really one of the state's real experts in manufacturing. And since I've introduced him, I'll introduce Don Christensen, the president of SUNY New Paltz, who's done a wonderful job with training, and Jackie Leventroff is also with us. I think that's all our council members that are with us today, but did you want to add anything to that?
Just to kind of hone in on Marcia's point, I think going forward, Jackie and I are on the workforce committee. We're looking to focus on the regional sector-based strategies, and we've done that a little bit with our manufacturing work. And Marcia talked about the community college partners. It's been excellent. We saw a little website there, and one of the slides called "Go Make It," and that's a direct response from that sector strategy to try and encourage people into advanced manufacturing careers. And another thing on that slide, just to thank you, is we're the intermediary for the apprentice program, which is funded through the Department of Labor, and it is going great. So it's been working really well. We're only 3 months into it, but it's been going great. But regional sector-based strategy, can't say that.
Can I ask one follow-up? So that's great, and one of the things that I'm concerned about, and I understand using obviously all of the university, community college resources that you have is really important. Have you identified skill sets that you can tease out pieces, particularly of the community college curriculum, so that the person being trained isn't in there for a 2-year degree, but getting a certificate targeted training? Is that part of what you're doing?
So that's actually, that's a direct result or kind of a phase 2 from the skills gap analysis that the consortium just completed. So the skills gap analysis was completed beginning of this year, and there's been an implementation plan put in place that's going to do exactly what you had just identified. That's essentially targeting some specific areas that were certificate-based skill level to really hone in and almost market those programs and enhance those programs to ensure that all levels of skill are being trained in the right way.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask, in the map of projects, we always kind of cover this every year, but I always feel like we want to see more happening in Sullivan and Ulster, and I wonder if you could describe some of the challenges there. Even Dutchess has a little more than them, but always kind of that northern part. I know it's a big region, but I'd love to hear about how you're, if you have a strategy to handle that.
Okay. I'm good? I'm back on? Okay. All right, so Jackie helped me out on Sullivan, and if anyone, Kevin or the mayor, want to talk a bit more about Ulster. So the challenge there is that it's a strange region. It's very diverse. So you have Westchester, which people immediately think of as very wealthy, but it's not. There are pockets of poverty throughout Westchester that are as poor as any place in New York State. But then the region is contrasted by Sullivan and Ulster, which have a high degree of agriculture. But Sullivan is also one of the poorest counties in New York State. And why you don't see a lot of high priority projects is, and I'll also speak as being the former county manager of Sullivan County, that, it is, the workforce is limited. The number of projects that have been able to come about have been hard, but I think there is an optimism in Sullivan County, and Jackie can bear this out, that, I'm a newbie, I've only been there 20 years. So, but I think there's an optimism there that is being spearheaded, one, with the new casino, and then going back to a project near and dear to my heart, Bethel Woods, the Performing Arts Center. So you have the Twin Towers there that are going to enable a renaissance there, which we think is going to spin off and attract interest in Sullivan County, which we're feeling now for the first time. There are bidding wars on houses that are for sale, which hasn't happened in years. And I think that's going to result in the ability to have a larger workforce that would then allow for other employers to say, I want to bring my business there, and therefore then lead to a greater number of high priority projects. And I think to some degree that's true in Ulster, but Ulster, population-wise, Sullivan is 75,000, Ulster 181,000. Ulster has a big city, Sullivan doesn't, and Kingston just won the DRI, and we think big things are going to happen as a result of that, and there are 4 high priority projects coming out of this year's round for Kingston. So I think that's one of the ways that we're going to see in coming years a greater number of projects.
Can I just add just a minute to that? And the difference, I'm from Sullivan, and in my prior life, I was president and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce for Sullivan County for 17 years. The difference in Sullivan County is we don't border the Hudson River. So when you talk about the mid-Hudson area, we're the only county in our region that does not border. We do not participate in the Greenway project. There are things that we don't have access to. We don't have public transportation. We don't have transportation. There is no Metro North or anything to go to Sullivan. So to get to Sullivan, someone has to take a train to Middletown and either take a bus or an Uber or whatever they can take. So we are looking at different alternatives, and people who in Orange County, they can fireman, police officer, they can't in Sullivan, or one mountain too far. So, if those are the constraints Sullivan County has, and I know that Monticello is putting, several times for downtown revitalization, and so Jonathan just said the $1.5 billion casino. If we don't get our community active again, people are not going to live in our community, although they are going to live in the region. But so Sullivan has a lot of issues behind it, not connected to the Hudson, no public transportation at all. We don't have county buses. We don't have a city. There's not one city in Sullivan County. And we're the only community that doesn't have a city. We don't have a county executive. We have a county manager. So we have things that are working against us right now. We are looking to change the form of government, and we are recognizing that we're not crying, help us. Number one, we are crying, help us. But we are taking matters in our own hands, and we're taking a look at how can we get people there. So we are trying to do things, but any help from the state we can get, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
We can't let Ulster County be left out of this discussion, so I'll pipe in a few things about Ulster County. When I mentioned some of the places in Ulster County, they conjure up a very different image. If you think about Ulster County as the home of New Paltz, that's one economic paradigm. If we mention the city of Kingston and its history going back to the very founding of New York State, even beyond the Stockade area, going back to the 1600s, this was one of the 3 original trading ports in New York State, with New York City and Albany being the other 2. If we talk about places like Woodstock, that has its own reputation, and then we have places like Ellenville. We are diverse within this county, and our needs are diverse. But the age of industry in this community and in the community surrounding here is a very significant factor in the challenges that we face. We need to develop an infrastructure for the 21st century, and we have an infrastructure that does literally date back to the 17th century. And the mayor, to his credit, has put a great deal of focus on that in his economic development efforts. And as a result of the kind of energy and focus that he's put in, we're starting to see finally a cohesive county-wide approach to this. But the diversity of our county and many of the same issues that Sullivan County shares with us, the lack of proximity or easy access to New York City is somewhat of a problem, although we consider ourselves fairly proximate to New York City. Our distance from Albany, we are not appropriately a suburb of Albany, presents a problem as well. And our history of having dominant industries that are no longer present in our community, going back to the pine bark and berry days and going through the days where you're sitting right now, the cement and the bluestone that built the United States of America passed by every single bit of it, passed by this building. Well, the building didn't exist at the time, but the infrastructure did. And then going into the 20th century, when we became home to a very significant IBM facility that basically one day just packed up and left, and that was about 25 years ago. We've not fully recovered from that. So the diversity of our county, of our community, the age of our infrastructure, and the significance of dominant industries in the past have colored where we are today. And it wasn't until we had people of vision and forward-looking cohesion like the mayor has that we've been able to start to see some significant progress in that area. We have become very attractive to people from downstate. That's good and that's bad, because we still have a native population that needs to live here, needs to work here, has difficulty affording their taxes to stay here. And it looks good on paper because the houses are still selling and the incomes seem to be rising, but the indigenous population, if you will, that is people who've been here longer than Jonathan, which barely includes me, they are still in need of economic development opportunities. And every single thing that we do with the state has an ability to be magnified here in this community and communities like Sullivan and even Northern Dutchess in a way where that money might be just fall into a little bit of a sinkhole in some of the bigger metropolitan areas. Not Westchester, of course, certainly not Yonkers. but the ability to see a small amount of resources have a tremendous impact is something that Mayor Noble has recognized and has put together in every one of the applications, not only the ones that he filed, but the ones that he shepherded as well. You've gotten applications from not-for-profits, you've gotten applications from business organizations. The mayor's fingerprints are all over them as well. I give him a lot of credit for being able to manage them. So our past is our great benefit. Our past is our great burden. Our future is in the hands of guys like this.
Thank you.
Great, thank you again for having us and for a great presentation. I wanted to ask a question about the opportunity agenda and about, as the housing commissioner, I think a lot about sort of the economically distressed areas of the city, a lot about poverty and housing affordability and housing quality. And so I know you identified some key infrastructure issues in some of the areas. So I wonder if you could just actually talk a little bit about some of those recommendations and also talk about whether you would do similar assessments for the other 4 opportunity areas in your region.
Okay, back on? Okay. Let's see how to do this. Key infrastructure has to do with replacing aging infrastructure. And there's no question that almost every community in the Hudson Valley and throughout New York State, quite frankly, is suffering from that. The Northeast of the United States is just different. And now we have to not only rebuild it, but rebuild it smarter in terms of climate change and other aspects to it. And I want to say that it's not just the 11 opportunity areas. Our organization has a program called the Urban Action Agenda, which focuses on 25 communities, which enables us to touch each of the counties in our region. And infrastructure, and near and dear to you is housing as well, are among the priorities. There are 11 priority areas that we look at there. And each of them are touched in some way, whether it's housing, whether it's infrastructure. But it is, I want to go back to your question a second. In terms of the infrastructure, we developed an infrastructure roundtable which comprises all of the infrastructure firms. So let's say engineering, architectural, planning. And they meet quarterly to try to devise priorities for the Hudson Valley. And they range from big projects like rebuilding I-84 or Route 17 to looking at the different ways to raise money where it's not just the state. I know there was hope that the federal government was going to focus on infrastructure. We'd like to see that occur. But they meet quarterly, and I think it's a good model for almost every region to be able to have the very people that advise municipal governments to be able to meet and say, look, let's sit around a table together and see what are different strategies that we can employ. And I'm happy to share with you the entire list of what came out of that.
I have 2 questions. One, Mayor Noble, I know we'll be touring Kingston in a short while and seeing some of what's been accomplished here. Just wonder if you could share so we could have some guidance in terms of development in other cities, how Kingston has been successful while cities in other parts of the region have not been.
You know, it's for folks that love our Hudson Valley cities, we've seen, our cities face a lot of challenges. We have failing infrastructure. We often have populations that are moving out. We have, governments that haven't been very effective at managing people's money over the years. And so cities have gotten a really bad rap. And I think that when I took office last January, I was destined to change that feeling because I feel that it's important when we are working in our community that our community is 110% bought into itself, that it knows that it's going to be successful, that it knows that it has a positive future, that it knows its people are going to find work, that its people are going to have access to good quality food. Our kids are going to be able to walk to school safely. That's the attitude and feeling that I want all of my residents and the people that come to the city to feel. And because of that change in outlook, our city has made a dramatic return. And again, it's not just me, it's a group of individuals that have recognized that with diversity and inclusiveness, with the right staff, with the right community outreach, with the weekly newsletters that we send to remind people of all of the great work that's happening in the city, we've been able to differentiate ourselves from other cities. We've been able to put resources where it's needed. You know, I actually have a great economic development team of 3 amazing women who work each and every day to create good quality applications. And you guys, as an economic development council and as state employees, have been extremely supportive of our requests and our needs, because we've gone out in the community and we've actually asked, what do we need? And then we didn't just move on, we actually sat down and listened, which again, people forgot how to do a while ago in government. And so that, I think, has really made Kingston different, and I hope that all of you will be able to join us on our tour today so that you can actually see it in real life. But we have some amazing people here, and I have just tried to channel that energy to be able to just show you all that.
Thank you. I just have a question, not for you, Mayor, about the transportation issue, because I know we talked about in Goshen, Legoland, we all, which is clearly going to create some issues on both workers getting there, but also people being able, the anticipated 1 million additional visitors being able to get to Legoland, and then being able to get past Goshen up to the casino, which already was anticipating additional traffic on 17. And I know it was mentioned that Sullivan doesn't have any public transportation. So if we're trying to get jobs for people who are in Sullivan, in Middletown, in Orange County, Newburgh, are there thoughts given to how they're going to be able to get to either Legoland or up to the casino or Bethel to be able to at least have some opportunity to improve their economic position?
I'll start, and I know Jonathan has a couple things to add, but as many of you may have heard, the governor earlier this year had announced major infrastructure improvements for the exit 131 interchange right around Woodbury Commons, which really is the initial bottleneck, I would say, to the backup of Route 17, which I think in and of itself is going to alleviate some of the traffic. But then in terms of the Legoland project specifically, as per the permitting process that they have had to go through, in completing seeker, they've been working extremely closely with DOT, and I know Todd Westice, the Regional Director 8, is in the room today. He's been a fantastic partner, not only to the Regional Council, but really to that project in particular, and there are substantial off-site road infrastructure improvements that Legoland is going to be required to do in order to actually open the park as planned in spring of 2020, which includes various improvements to Route 17 that will also coincide with the FHWA future upgrade to Interstate 86. And in addition, they are going to be building essentially a flyover or a bridge that goes really from Route 17 directly into the park, and then from the park directly out. And that was part of the community's concern in terms of the local traffic that it may create and what have you. So there are substantial upgrades on the Route 17 corridor that are on the docket and on the books now that really are going to be breaking ground in the very near future, which we are hoping and are planning that are going, it will alleviate some of the issues that we see now.
Okay, and then traffic. So you've got either physical ways that you can try to alleviate the impact, and that's what Megan's talking about. And then some of it also is about good planning. So let's take the casino, for instance. So a casino operates 24 hours a day. There really, for most people, don't understand that the impact isn't the visitors. It is actually when the shift change occurs every 8 hours that the highest impact occurs, and that means one is in like the, they're not, let's say, the commuting rush hours. And so some of it is about good planning and wanting to try to structure how do you alleviate the traffic. Now, some of that traffic also on Route 17 comes about in the summertime on Friday night and Sunday afternoon due to a particular part of our population which comes up for the weekends. And having also been responsible for the construction of Bethel Woods, some of it, I'm sorry to say, is just like leaving Yankee Stadium. If I could get a sellout crowd at Bethel Woods, 5 or 6 times out of 365 days, and it's going to take you an extra hour, I'm on the other side of the fence that sits there and says, that's a good thing. And the locals know how to drive around it, and when you go to Yankee Stadium, it's going to take an extra hour to get out of there. If you go to Bethel Woods and it's crowded with a concert, then hopefully you had a good time and you're in good spirits, or you may want to tailgate, leave a little later. Some of this is going to be fixed through physical infrastructure. Some of this has got to be fixed with planning, and some of it is going to be testing because we don't know yet exactly what the impact will be for the casino. It will ramp up over a period of time. Same thing with Legoland. Will have its periods of where the traffic will occur. Do we have to be sensitive to the local population? Of course we do.
There's also, if I could just mention one more thing, there's also a wonderful organization called Metropool, 511 Rideshare, and I think for the employees in particular, there will be concerted efforts to encourage employees to take alternative means of transportation, particularly since the public transit system is non-existent. I was going to say not robust, non-existent, but there's certainly carpooling and van pooling and shuttles and buses and park and rides and all of those tools that can be used particularly to encourage employees who do arrive at certain shifts and leave at certain shifts to share rides and take automobiles off the roads.
And so jumping on where Marsh is going on that is, so if you look at the corridor and you think about Woodbury Common, which already has a high, I always forget whether Woodbury or every time it adds an expansion, or the Falls has the highest visitation of tourism in New York State. It's in the top 3. Okay, thanks, Megan. So between Woodbury, Legoland, Casino, and then Bethel Woods, the integration through public transportation, it already happens at Bethel Woods where there are buses at the racetrack that you can take to Bethel Woods and you don't have to drive your car in there. But it's going to require some collaboration, cooperation, mass transit, and a host of alternatives, and some of it is going to happen, and maybe a little bit of, we don't have a lot of this, patience.
So if we have time, I'd like 2 questions. The first has to do with one thing we've been observing around the state is while we're seeing improvements in numbers of jobs and numbers of businesses, we're really not seeing the type of improvement we'd like in poverty rates. So I'm curious as to not why, but if you could explain a little bit more about the Center for Open Hiring at Greystone Bakery, which you featured as one of your hard-to-place entry-level workforce success stories. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about why that was so successful, and is there something more that you're doing or you're trying to do regarding that poverty level?
Chime in here, but the Center for Open Hiring, well, Greystone Bakery, and it's expanding through its Center for Open Hiring, is an example of an organization that is really addressing the hardest people to place, because these are people who can't get jobs. Many have backgrounds, and so they go there and they're given a chance, it's a proven success. They're given job training, they're given other support services, and the Greystone team has come to our council and I believe has gotten funding to share some of their experiences with other organizations around the state to expand this. And I know this is a real goal of theirs, to educate employers about the concept of open hiring. You know, it's not an easy concept, but there are other steps around the way. Open hiring is where there are basically no questions asked. So, you know, so people come in and they can get a job regardless of their background. They have to do their job, of course, but there's no questions asked. Am I correct on that, Shelley?
Yeah, so an individual that's looking for employment at Grayston Bakery and through the open hiring process, their background, whether they were incarcerated previously or had maybe drug issues in the past or what have you, that is not taken into consideration. Essentially what they are doing, and what Marcia was discussing, was that they are put into a probationary period or hired on a probationary period, and after a certain amount of time, first of all, they are mentored extremely closely by senior leadership at Grayston, and they follow along a very specific training and implementation program through this open hiring center. And if at the end of that time frame they have qualified or graduated through that program and have been successful in showing up to work on time, doing the job that they were hired to do, they are then offered a full-time employment at the bakery, again, regardless of the background, you know, that they are coming to that position with. And the idea behind that is that Grayston has really perfected this open hiring model. And the point, and what we would love to see, and what we're working with them to try to ensure that it happens, is that this open hiring model be implemented in various other types of businesses throughout the state and throughout the region. And the idea is that this really is a mutually beneficial experience for not only the employee but the employer. And what Grayston does is really work with individual businesses to try to understand, or try to have them understand, how they can financially make this work, and also really implement this in a way that is going to be successful.
I'm sorry, can I just add that, you know, in Yonkers, particularly for formerly incarcerated people, this is the only place you can go and get a job and be successful. And it's been an extremely successful model there for many years. Now they have really perfected and are sharing it. And in fact, I think it's in Holland, they're using this model and finding this is a successful model. But the bottom line is anyone can walk in, I think subject to immigration issues, let's put them to the side. Anyone who's legally eligible to work can walk in and be eligible to have a job. And that is a remarkable thing for an urban community like ours, and it's been a success story. And the Lieutenant Governor was recently there to promote this concept of open hiring as a model for other similar employers to adopt throughout the state.
That's great, thanks. And I just have one quick question for the mayor. I noticed that Kingston is one of the real opportunity areas, and infrastructure is part of the equation. To what extent are you focusing on flood remediation as part of the work?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a poignant question, because if 5 years ago today, beginning with Superstorm Sandy, we would all be swimming right now. And so, right here, swimming, the water would be another foot over our head. And we had about 8 feet of water come in as part of the surge. And so because we are connected to the Atlantic Ocean, the same storm surge that hit New York City also affected Kingston. And so at that time, we recognized that, you know, tidal flooding is only going to be exacerbated by sea level rise. And so the city, working with our partners at the DDC, completed a sea level rise report, which has now been used as a model across New York State to really be able to take the concept of sea level rise and climate change and adaptation to the next level of actually incorporating it. And so this building is a building that is specifically designed to flood. If you look around the walls, you'll see all the outlets are raised above the concrete, so that during a flooding event, this building can literally have the water just flush right through. You'll see the doors on both ends to be able to, they open up the doors, the water comes in, the water comes out, they spray it down, and the building's open the next day. Our rest of our waterfront is old. These buildings were built 100 years ago, and they weren't able to adapt, and so they struggle every time we have a flood. And so now what we're doing is we're working, we just received as part of last year's CFA process, a $300,000 grant to be able to design new sustainable bulkheads that will go from here to the Hudson River. That not only will help protect us when need be, but also be able to allow the creek to better connect with our residents through softer shorelines that we believe is going to be, again, another model for New York State, and one where we all struggle with this, and there's communities across New York State that deal with flooding. But one thing that we've been able to do really well, and I'd love to talk to you more about it, is to really connect our residents. And so there are more residents in this city that know about sea level rise and flooding than probably anywhere else, because we have had so many meetings, and so many community events, and so many workshops, is that people actually now care. And so that's exciting for me, and but it just means that though we still have so much more work to do.
Unfortunately, we are out of time. But make a note, if you need my support on 17, since I drive on that a lot, we need a rest stop somewhere. For the record. I want to thank you and also those of you in the audience for the questions. It's been a great presentation, and as you know, we'll be in Kingston for a couple of hours. And congratulations again, Mayor.
Thank you so much. So everybody, just so everybody is aware, there are lunches in here in the warmer tent. We do have the tent set up